that it and clarity electrifying energy to this 2 days huge exercise of national importance through young and dynamic leadership on this occasion. Further, the words he is going to are from horse mouth, and his direction would be intensively embodied into the proceedings of this national seminar. We welcome you, sir. Swarupa Pariksha Amadenu, and our honorable chief patron of this 2-day national seminar, Professor Colonel G. Hemant Kumar. He is 25th Honorable Vice Chancellor of University of Mysore and the president of this August inaugural event, where his distinguished presence immensely enriched this professional initiative of national dimensions and on the current issues of educational priority, that is augmenting digital learning environment in higher education institutions. The number 25th notifies prime forces of youthfulness and aggressive advancement in our human life. And in this comparison, I wish to say, and I'm sure he enlivens this university into its prime and youthful and aggressive contribution in times to come. And we are especially grateful for his diligent attention, effort, and dedicated leadership resulted into inauguration of our Bachelor of Social Work Honors course under NEP 2022. Further, Professor G. Hemant Kumar sir had propagated and the fragrance of University of Mysore to oceans beyond. Sir, we welcome you, sir. And I welcome Professor Colonel Y.S. Siddegoda, my teacher, and the teachers of teachers and professors of professors, and former Honorable Vice Chancellor, Tumkur University, and our living force and root energy to the prosperity of social work department in its formative and advancement phases as an independent department. We sincerely believe his presence as an independent department. We sincerely believe in his presence and guidance immensely enriched his academic and professional exercise with his vast experience and eminence of decades of social work as a profession aiming to the good of the society. Welcome you, sir. We are expressing our highest level of appreciation and invitation to the presence of our esteemed colleague, Professor Ashiyappa, Registrar, University of Mysore, who always believes inclusive approach in all growth promotion activities. We welcome you, sir. It is my honorous duty to welcome and honor my teacher, esteemed colleague, Dr. Chandramoli. Now he is on examination duty in our department. So on his absence, I welcome him. And I'm indebted to convey my immense gratitude to the august presence of distinguished invitees, Professor D.S. Guru, Professor Chairman, Dawson Computer Science, and Professor G. Venkatesh Kumar, syndicate member and chairman Department of Psychology, and Professor Ramesh, Director IQAC Tumkur University, who have offered their diligent and deliberate endeavors in materializing this program of national importance. I welcome you, sir. I also feel immensely thankful and welcome Professor D.K. Laldas, Research Director from Hyderabad, Professor Mangaleshwaran, Professor Ashok D'Souza, Professor Bhaskar, Professor Arjunan. I welcome you all. And I welcome all the members of organizing committee, participants, media, person, ICT staff, non-teaching and teaching staff. Along with, I sincerely welcome students, participants, and all social work fraternity by name. And we significantly thank and welcome each and everyone who have supported and materialized this today's initiative. I conclude my welcome address with a statement made by Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft, who said, the advance of technology is based on making a fit in so that you don't really even notice it. So it is a part of everyday life. Thus, I strongly believe the deliberation of this two-day national seminar, academic and professional exercise will lead us to amalgamate into a social needs and practice inputs to advance the current society to a brighter tomorrow. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for such a warm welcome. Can we have big round of applause for her, please? Friends, light symbolizes knowledge and darkness symbolizes ignorance. Knowledge removes ignorance, just like how light removes darkness. Knowledge is our lasting inner wealth by which all of our outward achievements can be accomplished. Hence, we light the lamp to bow down to the knowledge as a greatest form of wealth. May I now request all the dignitaries on the dais to light the auspicious lamp. While lighting the lamp, let's pray to God that we may continue to burn the auspicious light to bring in happiness, prosperity, and healthy long life to people of India and people around the world. I request all the audience to stand up and join the lighting the lamp occasion. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in lighting the lamp. Now I request the guests on dais to release the souvenir on this occasion. Give a big round of applause while they release the souvenir on this occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, and my friends, education is a sum of what students teach each other between lectures and seminars. We wish to express our heartfelt thanks to Department of Social Work for organizing this seminar. Before we get started, let me throw some light on the purpose of organizing this seminar. This two-day national seminar is focused on discussing issues concerning to the digital learning environment and explore measures of their improvements under NEP 2020. It shall also endeavor to strengthen the existing infrastructure and make suggestions to the development of digital learning environment to more inclusive policies for development. This seminar has creating a suitable environment for skilling the eligible students and link them to the digital learning where students' aspiration and digital needs are in learning process as its primary objective. The all appears to be electrifying, and I can see all of you are waiting to share your views. So, as a part of this program, I would like to introduce Professor S. Manian. He born in the year 1953 in a Karur district, Tamil Nadu. Sir has postgraduated and has holds a PhD and has done his MSc in University of Madras, Chennai, and also he has done his BSc University of Chennai, Madras. Sir is today's. He will be addressing us. I request Professor S. Manian sir to address us and deliver an inaugural speech.
Respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Hemant Kumar, respected Dr. Chetan Singhai, the keynote speaker, respected Professor Siddha Gowda, respected Professor Sivappa, the registrar, Professor Dr. Jyoti, the seminar convener, Dr. Chandramouli, the seminar secretary, Professor Lal, Professor Guru, faculty members of Mysore University, and my dear delegates. When you look into the list of top 200 universities in the world released by Times World University Ranking, you'll be really surprised to see that almost all the universities come from the developed countries. As expected, the top 10 slots were shared by the US and British universities. When you just have a glance at the list, 60 universities are from US, 25 universities from UK, 14 from China, and the rest shared by Europe, Canada, and Australia, including 2 universities from the tiny nation Singapore. Even Saudi Arabia and South Africa had their representative universities, one each. But unfortunately, to our shock, none of our Indian universities were in the list, including the central universities. So in this brief inaugural talk, just I would like to analyze the reasons for this sorry state. The history of higher education in India goes back to centuries, but I would like to restrict myself to the history of higher education in India from the British period of colonial rule. During British period, the seed for higher education was laid by way of starting 3 universities, the Calcutta University, Bombay University, and Madras University in 1857. At that time, there were several universities in Britain, but the University of London, bestowed with affiliating system, was chosen as the model university for the development of higher education in India. And that was the great mistake done by our forefathers in selecting a wrong system as a model for the development of higher education in the country. Even today, we are struggling to rectify this mistake. In my view, the affiliating system is a master-slave model. Here, the university master subjugate the affiliated colleges considered as slaves to toe their lines. There is no academic freedom at all. So this is the major mistake we committed, and still the country is struggling to reverse it, rectify the mistake. So higher education today encompasses teaching and research. But the affiliating system tries to separate the teaching and research in higher education. Actually, the London University, which was followed as a model, realized its mistake and it dropped its retrogressive, the process of affiliation in due course. But India continued to adopt it and started to expand it in the higher education system. So in the world today, only the universities in the subcontinent, the India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, follow this affiliating system. My dear friends, the education, higher education really means the teaching and research, which are inseparable. Even the undergraduate degree programs, UG programs, has to be carried out under research environment. But unfortunately, 80% of the undergraduate program in the country are operated by affiliated colleges. In the present scenario, it is even very difficult to dream that PG programs can be carried out in non-research environment. But 67% of the country's PG students pursue their studies in affiliated colleges away from research environment. My dear friends, the lack of growth or growth of higher education can be in India can be assessed only by comparison. So we can compare our higher education system with China. The India and China were on a par in terms of population and economic level some 50 years ago. The China started research programs in higher education in the after Cultural Revolution in 1978. But on the other hand, India started its research in science and technology much earlier in 1950s with the establishment of Indian Institute of Science, which was known at the time as Tata Institute. But in spite of that, we have lagged behind and China has overtaken us. When you consider the number of research articles published in refereed journals, in 1996, the Chinese authors published 25,000 research articles in Scopus referred journals. At the time, Indian scientists published 20,000 papers, almost comparable. After 5 years, the number of publications remained the same in India, whereas it doubled in China. In 2006, the number of publications by Chinese scientists rose to 1.75 lakhs, whereas in India, it was 40,000. In 2021, this disparity widened much. 7.5 lakhs standard publications, whereas we published less than 2 lakhs. When you consider the patents filed in these two countries, in 2010, we produced only 3,000 patents, 6,000 patents. But at the same time, the Chinese published 6 lakhs patents. So why this? I will also give another comparison. Now, there are 137 researchers in India per million population, whereas it is 1,070 in China per million population. Almost eightfold, more than eightfold. When we make all the teachers working in affiliated colleges in the country to pursue active research, then this figure will raise to 987.8 per million population. Almost the gap will, but it is in the hands of the policymakers. In affiliated colleges, the main job of the teachers is to do research, to do classroom teaching. They don't do research. But there are few interested, self-motivated teachers who pursue research, spend more time in the laboratories, but unfortunately, the time they spend for research is not considered in the workload. Even when they produce good publications, their hard work is not recognized because we consider that their job is only to do teaching work. My dear friends, higher education in India is highly scattered and fragmented and is being pursued in approximately about 40,000 affiliated colleges. And many of these colleges are tiny, a shade more than the higher secondary schools. It's very pathetic, the infrastructure and the quality of teaching faculty is really, really pathetic. We have, as per 2001 March data, India has 1,026 universities, which include central universities, state universities, private universities and deemed universities. Really, we have improved the number of universities in the last 20 years, no doubt. But the standard is not comparable. Many of these universities are having the commercial motive. They are not service oriented. And also, you would have heard the name of Dr. Sam Pitroda, the chairman of Knowledge Commission. He submitted a report to the then Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2006, requesting him to increase the number of universities to establish 1,500 more universities within few years. But today, considering the need to fulfill the research need in advanced areas of science, we have to establish some 3,000 standard universities or university ranked institutions within few years. Also, we are forced to amend the Private Universities Act. There is no control over the private universities. Already there are haphazard development and they are under the state's control, and we have to amend the Private Universities Act. Friends, in an effort to set right the first mistake of following the affiliated type of system in the country, the government of India has realized it of late and taking a lot of corrective steps. One of the early steps introduced was the faculty improvement program for college teachers. They will go to universities and do PhD and come back to colleges and propagate research career. The second attempt was college autonomy, and the final attempt was degree offering colleges, which will culminate in deemed to be universities. But the NAC, NIRF, etc. are also giving emphasis to research. They are emphasizing the research as an integral component of higher education, and they insist upon the faculty members to pursue research. Apart from this, there are few more reasons why our education, higher education is backward. One is the poor investment in higher education. India is spending only 0.88% of its GDP on research, when compared with the 7 to 8% of GDP by US, 4% by China, 3 to 4% by South Korea. So the government has to increase the spending on higher education. Another important reason is the insufficient exposure to practicals. So mostly the science curricula are theory oriented, mostly highly theoretical, and the course content is also very dense, but less importance is given to practicals. So it has to be the reverse, the other way. Study, now the present condition is study more, learn less, but it should be learn more, study less. And our higher education system also, invest very less budget for industry connected education. Another factor which impedes higher education is the weak feeder mechanism. The schools are the feeders for higher education. The students are prepared and sent for higher education. But the standard of schools are varied in the country. We have different systems, CBSE, matriculation, Anglo-Indian system, state boards, so on, so on. And the curriculum standard, everything is different. The communication, the students learn, the ability to communicate is poor. Above all, our examination system is defective examination system. It has failed to identify the really meritorious students. So whoever memorize the lessons, they fare well in the examinations, and they get into higher education stream. Those students who are very efficient in problem solving are not selected, they lag behind and they cannot reach the higher education. The same thing prevails in universities and colleges also. Dear friends, another major defect in our system is the strict compartmentalization of disciplines. In universities and colleges, the different faculties, they are standalone islands, different disciplines. One student studying in a particular discipline cannot study the other discipline. So this effectively prevents the interdisciplinary research. Establishment of monolithic universities, say a separate university for agriculture, separate university for fisheries, separate university for veterinary science, education, law, arts, science. So these monolithic universities, effectively, they are standing as stumbling block and prevent the interdisciplinary approach, which is essential for application side. Another major defect I find is poor exposure of our faculty and students to contemporary science. Almost there is no opportunity for horizontal movement from one university to another university within the country as well as abroad. Even faculty fellowships available to visit foreign universities are very limited. And almost there is no fellowship offered by universities to invite foreign scientists to come and work in our universities. So there is no opportunity for our faculty to know the contemporary scientific developments in other laboratories in other countries. And the poor industrial exposure is practically the faculty doing research in universities have no industrial exposure. As a result, they don't understand the real need of the industries. Consequently, the industries hesitate to come and fund research projects in colleges because they are not getting any return. So my dear friends, we also have leadership problem. We are in short of education leaders like Vikram Sarabhai, P.C. Kundesamy, Ananthakrishan. There were so many academic leaders, education leaders to guide, but now there is paucity for academic leadership. Unfortunately, I would like to end my talk by telling that the current NEP 2020 has been initiated to address most of these problems, particularly in skill development, communication, lifelong education, digital education. And even there are major changes in the school, communication skill development of communication skill, vocational. Many of these problems are addressed by the new education policy, but it is in the hands of the administrators to equip the institutions, increase their infrastructure to successfully implement the NEP 2022. I have visited many colleges as chairman of NEP committee, and I am very sorry to say that there are many institutions where there are only handful of faculties, and the infrastructure is pathetic. So government has to invest heavily, and also they have to monitor it. The regulatory body is also has to play an important role. With these few words, I thank the organizers for giving me this nice opportunity. And I think I have exceeded my given time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insights on the research, mistakes of the past, defects in the present, trends, infrastructure availability, and opportunities available in our education system in India. Now we move on to the next. I request Dr. Chetan Singhai, the keynote speaker of today, the chief consultant and convener, National Curriculum Framework 2022, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Special Officer on Deputation, Karnataka State Higher Education Council, Government of Karnataka. Dr. Chetan Singhai has obtained his doctoral degree from National Institute of Advanced Studies, Indian Institute of Science Campus, Bengaluru. Dr. Chetan has worked as assistant professor at the National Law School of Indian University, Bangalore, and St. Joseph College, Autonomous College, Bangalore. He was nominated as member to the committee to finalize a draft National Education Policy 2020 constituted by Ministry of Education, Government of India, in the period June 2019 to July 2020. He was associated with the committee to draft National Education Policy in 2017 to 19. He was associated with the member secretary to the committee to review the quality mandate relating to the promotion of research in MPhil and PhD regulation in India. Committee chaired by the Padma Bhushan Dr. B. Balram, former director, Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. Currently, he is nominated as chief consultant, technical secretariat, National Curriculum Framework, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Sir, I'd request you to address a keynote.
So, very good morning to all of you. Good morning. Let me start with my respects to all the dignitaries on the stage and off the stage here, and must acknowledge what Professor Jyoti said, hearing from the horse's mouth. So I must run like in horse speed also because of the time constraints, and also acknowledge the presence of Professor Indira here, who has been a great mentor to me. Thank you, madam. And I am the native of Belagavi. So Professor Ashok D'Souza is here representing Rani Channamma University, very close to my heart because I come from Belagavi. And also other distinguished members, Professor Lal and our distinguished Vice Chancellor, sir, former Tumkur University Vice Chancellor, sir, is here. And Maniandan, sir, but setting the context, I think you have set a very challenging context. So the best analogy I can think for our theme for today's discussion is maybe I am tempted to ask how many of you don't like selfies, but it is people will raise hand, then the next person will see and say, what is that? This person is not part of the today's world. But how many of you like selfies, taking selfies? I saw a few people taking selfies in the back. So yes, there are a few hands. So selfie is a good example because in a simple dictionary meaning, selfie is a self-taken image. But what happens after that is for what? You take the image, but for what? Right? So it is for you or for your consumption or for circulation in social media for others. So digital environment is also similar. You know, we have this notion of capturing data, capturing information, but for what? For our consumption or for others' consumption. I think this analogy gives us an insight of how we should be engaging with strategic improvement of digital learning environment in India, particularly the higher education institutions. As Professor Badian said, NEP provides a very good context to reflect. Let me start with a quote by Steve Jobs, who is the founder of the Apple Macintosh, which today is the benchmark of quality of technology as we claim it to be, and our experience says so in many sense. In the draft NEP, that is a bulky document, but it is what they say, half of Harry Potter. It is easy to read. Don't get intimidated. It is 400 page, but people in education sector don't read, then who's going to read? So I request in the draft NEP, there is a quote by Steve Jobs, as I said, from Macintosh, when he was asked about why the Macintosh computer revolutionized computing, he said, quoting him, I think part of what made the Macintosh great was the people working on it, where musicians, poets, artists, and zoologists and historians who also happen to be the best computer scientists in the world, unquote. So this quote can be referred in two contexts. One, NEP's transformation towards liberal arts education, social sciences as part of other disciplines. The other is when we hear the word digital, when we hear the word technologies, as we experience, MSW people or social science people should not say, this is not mine. We are also very much part of it. We are also very much using it, but we use it for our convenience. But if we use it for wider purpose, when Macintosh can evolve such revolutionized thoughts and products, and for the use of society and human beings, why not us? Is the spirit of this quote in the larger context. In the next few minutes, I would like to put my perspectives under 4 or 5 headers. First, I would like to flag what again Professor Manianan sir said, the context of changing landscape of higher education very briefly, because he has beautifully covered the entire gamut with a lot of facts. So I'll not stress too much on that, but just as a context setting. Then about NEP, because when we now are implementing NEP, because I'm purposely not using the word when we are reading or getting awareness of NEP, because we have gone to a stage of implementation, there is a lot of misconception. There's a lot of mixed thought process there, where many of them are only reading parts of it and not aligning to the whole, which is important to be seen, because policy loses its organic entity if we are not seeing it as a whole, but only see it as a part. So there I would like to give some examples, how we can read the document and understand better so that we can implement better. Third, I would like to focus much on what are those digital transformation that Government of India and other state governments are doing, very briefly again, but many of us are not aware. But if you're aware, you may want to just skip that from your mind for that moment. But I want to use it as an example of what are we going to see as barriers for implementing it in the next section. And then, of course, I want to give strategic directions that HEIs, and I'm purposely again using the word HEIs because NEP also says, let us overcome this concept of university, right? Going forward, they should become higher education institutions. Because if we keep referring to university as a concept, by name, it should be there, no doubt. But by practice, they have to become higher education institution, because the transformed typology as per NEP is research intensive university with significant teaching, teaching intensive university with some research, and degree awarding autonomous colleges. So to sort of accommodate the third category of degree award autonomous college, we cannot call every entity as university. Everything and every entity which deals with higher education should be higher education institution. That is just a footnote for us to take if you would like to belabor much on that later on. The changing landscape, in addition to the facts shared by sir before me, another important landscape, the policy landscape that we refer to, has been since independence, because most of it is coming through our colonial time, no doubt. Foundations have been laid there, good or bad, as we discussed a few minutes ago. But post-independence, starting from the 1948 Radhakrishna Commission to now, the landscape has been very interesting. The first 2 decades, we focused on expansion. That is an obvious thing for any policy direction to expand, because we were having only 3 presidency universities and few colleges, so expansion was the direction. Then around the 60s or 70s, late 60s and early 70s, the focus was on equity. How to, now we are expanding, but for what? It also to contribute to equity. Then post-liberalization, as some learned person said, we had liberated Lakshmi in 1991, but not Saraswati. Even now we are not liberating Saraswati, because autonomy is the biggest question that we discussed today, everywhere and any context of higher education talk about. But the direction with the coming in of NAC and others, the direction went towards excellence. These are the 3 E's of a journey from expansion, equity, and excellence. But the unfortunate fact is, this is not linear. We are not saying expansion is over, now we'll focus on equity and then we'll go to excellence. It is a sort of a complex triad between the 3 E's, which Professor JBJ Tilak from NEPA, the former Vice Chancellor of NEPA, very nicely puts it as higher education in a Trishanku. This is the 3 E's where we are located. So in this context, NEP also acknowledges the 3 E's as a preface and as a context. Second important departure I would like to take is about the NEP per se, right? So there are 2 documents and both are mutually inclusive, and NEP, the draft NEP 2019 provides an appropriate context to read the 66-page document. If I put it in other words, the 66-page document is an extended executive summary of the draft NEP. So as teachers, researchers, students, should we be satisfied with the executive summary to be read, or should we read the source document? So please read them together. And I think there's a lot of meaning, and I'll give some examples why we should read them together. First is, as NEP envisages, it's a 21st century policy for the needs of 21st century, and digitization is one of them. Second, it is, as again mentioned by sir before me here, that Manian sir said, it's learning centric, learner oriented, and institutional empowering sort of a system which it's trying to propose in the document, and where autonomy is the key dimension of it. But autonomy with accountability, accountability measured as performance. That's very important. Then the other dimension is increasing the gross enrollment ratio, because we are located in a very unfortunate situation where 27.3 to 28% is our current gross enrollment ratio. And I found in the recent past in many discussions that most of us, especially the young students who are now getting into the portals of higher education, they really don't know what is GR, right? So GR is very important metric for us to accommodate the notion of expansion leading to excellence. GR is basically those who are eligible. Any individual who is eligible to get into higher education by virtue of getting past 12th standard must be in higher education. So out of 100 eligible individuals, only 27 are fortunate to get access to higher education. We are yet to universalize. In fact, Martin Trove, a scholar, characterizes Indian GR as elite education system because only 27 out of 100 are there. But if you want to really become mass education, you have to cross the threshold of 50 and above. That is 50 out of 100, or 50% GR is what the mass education in higher education we refer to. So that is where we are now inching towards. So NEP makes a recommendation that how do we increase this GR? So there are 3 pathways. Again, this is again one example of misconception. There are 3 pathways that NEP recommends. One is to increase the number of university taking forward the National Knowledge Commission's recommendation. That is one, that is brick mortar institutions. Second is to overcome, and this is another occasion for our social science researchers and teachers and students to take this into account, to overcome the stigma associated with open distance learning, right? Those, especially it is there definitely in school system, NIOS. Similarly, in higher education, those who do open education, they're considered to be not so intelligent, or somebody who is not capable of getting into higher education institution portals. The third pathway is use of technology, enabling technology to engage. So the misconception here is NEP does not account for digital divide. It is not equity driven, is what the perception is. But they ignore the first 2 pathways, only focus on the third one. How can we do online digital education? This is another example. So draft NEP gives a half-page explanation to arrive at this particular recommendation, that there are 3 pathways. And we have to assess all the 3 pathways on the considering the local context, and then go about implementing that. It is not just the online education, but it is important that wherever there is facility, wherever there is a possibility, we should go with the third pathway also, but not ignoring the first 2 pathways. This is another example, but it will increase accessibility and increase the GR to 50% by 2030 is what the aim of NEP is. Second important recommendation of NEP, if I have to characterize the recommendation, is enabling flexibility and choice. And it is across all actors in higher education institution. For teachers also, there should be flexibility and choice. For students, definitely there should be flexibility and choice. Administrators also, there should be. So that is a model in which we have to reflect. These recommendations are holistic. They are not, again, only to students or teachers or others. How do we develop a governance mechanism at an institutional level where administrators will also have some flexibility in decision making based on autonomy? How do we develop curriculum which will enable flexibility and choice for students. And I must say that choice-based credit system has failed to reach its objective because the intention was to create flexibility and choice, but that flexibility and choice is guided. It's not really flexible because days are there when we want to see a social science student taking a geology class as an option. It's very difficult, but it is important because history student learning geology is very useful. Materiology is very useful because they'll get into archaeology eventually and understand the scientific ideas behind it. But it's not happening. CBCS was supposed to do that, but it's not happening. But now NEP says, let us really bring it as part of the program, undergraduate program in 4 years' time. How can we create flexibility and choice? This is another example. Third is about restructuring the higher education institutions to research intensive. Right now, sir said there are different types of higher education institution, ranging from deemed university, private public, state university, private public, then institution of national importance, etc. Now, how do we consolidate them? Because each one is based on the ownership. If it's a state public university, if they get grants from state government. It's a state private university if it is sponsored by a trust. It is a private deemed university, again sponsored by trust, but governed by UGC. So this is basically based on the governance or what you call ownership model. But NEP says make that shift to 3 core functions. Anywhere in the world you go, any higher education institution, including University of Mysore, will be doing 3 core functions: teaching, research, and extension. Am I right? All of you agree to that? So when we consider these 3 core functions, why not reorganize our typology to these 3 types? Research intensive university, again, another misconception. They are not only doing research. It very clearly says research intensive university with significant teaching. Teaching intensive university with some research, and degree awarding autonomous college. Second misconception which people have over time sort of engaged, partly also the WhatsApp university is responsible for it, is that they are claiming that research university is better than teaching. Teaching university is better than degree awarding. In NEP, it's very clear they are not hierarchy. They are actually, there is a choice for any HEIs to declare today as research intensive. Tomorrow, after 5 years, they might assess themselves and say, we are more comfortable or more better in being teaching intensive, or simply degree awarding autonomous college. All 3 have important role to play. All 3 have their roles defined, for example. So I'm trying to give examples. So now, when we are looking at these transformations, there is a need for support. And technology is one of the examples that NEP also brings in. How do we create this ecosystem and support this ecosystem? So in essence, if you really want to make HEIs or higher education institutions and the entire higher education ecosystem into what they call the famous statement of democracy of the people, by the people, for the people. Similarly, if I use that as an extension for my reference of the institution, by the institutions, and for the institutions, actors or stakeholders. If you really want to do that, how are you going to create yourself as an autonomous entity? And technology is one of the many means or instruments that we can discuss and take this forward for our thinking. 2 chapters in NEP. I'm talking about the 66-page document, which is part 3 of NEP. Chapter 23 and 24 have a clear explanation or recommendations which will enable a technology-based or technology-enabled education. One is technology use and integration, chapter 23. Chapter 24, online and digital education, with a very clear indication that it should ensure equitable use of technology. So how it is going to happen? Policy will not give an implementation direction. Policy only sets a vision, a direction that maybe this is what we need to do. But implementation lies in 4 important domains: central government, state government, institution, and we as individuals. All 4 of us have a role to play in this implementation process. So I will highlight some examples for each of these pathways. But at the level of the government, the National Education Technology Forum, which has been already announced, and we have Professor Anil Sarasabuddi as a chairman now, who was former AICT chairman of the NETF, very able hand because he has seen the revolution of and the evolution of the engineering education, management education, etc. So what is the core function of this NETF? Again, it is there in the policy, but I would like to use this as a reference for discussion. A platform for free exchange of ideas and on the use of technology to enhance learning, assessment, planning, and administration. I really appreciate the last 2. because learning assessment, it is our prerogative and our responsibility to do that. But planning and administration is a very critical component, because if you don't get that able support of these two, planning and administration, whatever reforms we do at learning and assessment level will remain as only individual efforts, not as a systemic or institutionalized effort. So that's where we have to read again that recommendation as a whole, not as a part, right? Second is very important, evidence-based advice to central and state government agencies on technology-based intervention. So who is going to give evidence? We are supposed to give evidence to NETF to advise the central and state governments to engage or deploy technology for and make such certain interventions. Third is to build intellectual and institutional capacities in each educational technology. Fourth, envision strategic thrust areas in the domain of use of technology. Fifth, articulate new directions for research and innovation. The last one is where we also have a very important role to make. Unless we write and express our experiences and evidences on the ground based on our expertise, this entity, NETF, will not be able to do anything. And that's where, again, what Sir said, why is China going ahead is another reason. But the publication that is coming out is an empirical evidence. Each classroom for us is an empirical evidence. Each experience of ours is an empirical evidence. Your use of UVCMS also is an empirical evidence. What are the challenges you're facing? Are you writing about it? Maybe not, maybe yes. But if you write, then there is a scope for this NETF to make some interventions, because you are generating evidence. You're sharing your experience and bringing your expertise from the discipline you come from. Now, why should we digitize, or why should we go towards this digital learning? I have a few thoughts, and I'm sure you also have thought about it. One is the relationship between technology and education at all levels is and should be bi-directional. Now it is unidirectional always, and started with the radio to now that we are seeing even Swayam, etc. They are evolving. There's more to do. But if you see the other platforms, like the other MOOC platforms, they've gone a step beyond and making it more interactive. And that interaction is very, very important. Second, and for that also we need our attitudes in place to make the best use of that interaction. It should not be like radio, only listening. We should also contribute back. And how do we make it is very, very important. Extensive use of technology in teaching and learning would remove language barriers, because these days we have translators. We have translation also done in textual translation, audio translation, etc. And also access to be provided to visually challenged, bringing the equity component in its best way, and also those who are unable to access. Cost of physical infrastructure is increasing day by day. As and when inflation is going up, the cost is also increasing. And also the overarching governance around this physical infrastructure also is getting challenging. So is this an alternative, or can it be a supportive mechanism, is a reason why we should look towards digitizing education. Then streamlining educational management and administration. As I mentioned, NETF also proposes that we should use technology for efficient administration, planning, and management, which we use by using simply the calendar for reminders is also one very, very basic example. And sometimes many of us also use email to store our data to make sure that we get access whenever. But while there are other software also which are available, but that's a simple and easy mechanism. So if we are using for our planning, why not at a institutional level? Then supporting teacher preparation and professional development is where digitization is important. Now, in the next few minutes, in 5 minutes, I want to just share facts with this context, because I hope I am rendering like a horse, right? So because of time constraint. So digital transformations for higher education, what are the initiatives which have been done? And I would urge our students to please listen to these keywords, Google it later, and you'll get plethora of opportunities to learn from various resources. Let us not undermine them, because they are developed by our own nation for the purpose of us and for our use. One is under the heading called audio video e-content. We have very popular nowadays is Swayam, massive open online course. I take this opportunity to also congratulate University of Mysore, because in recent NIRF ranking, if my analysis, which we did recently, of the top 100, only University of Mysore Public State University listed few Swayam courses and they got some points for that among all the public state universities. So I'm sure it'll go a long way. What I appreciate in that further is one of the precondition of Swayam massive open online course is these courses must be offered by extraordinary faculty to develop online courses. So if this university is one of the few to recognize, I'm sure they also have those extraordinary faculty who are offering these courses. It's a good start. Further, linked with this is a national credit framework. So already the government of India has announced the draft national credit framework, where these courses will now become part of credits, because unfortunately, education, especially higher education, is often measured. If I take this course, how many credits I get, or whether I'll get degree or not. But here, again, keeping that in mind, but trying to overcome those limitations, the national credit framework also acknowledges that online courses to be consistent. Then there is Swayam Prabha, which is trying to provide high quality educational program 24/7 for all the learners. Then the other header is under digital transformation, which I just said, under digital content, access to journals and ebooks. Friends, I must tell you that this is a historic moment for nation, because we are very soon going to announce, we as a nation announce one nation, one subscription. And that would keep this international corporate entities called Elsewhere and all out, because they are actually making a big business out of it. One nation, one subscription will make Indian researchers and students and teachers to access online resources free of cost, which we struggle today, because we'll have to either pay for it, or we are going to either borrow from somebody, or come to the library. But now it will be accessible. So under that, there is a national digital library, which is e-content, where multidisciplinarity has been brought in there as per NEP's recommendation. National Digital Library. EPG, Postgraduate Pathshala, which has gateway to e-books for PG students, and few UG also, where free books and curriculum-based e-content is available for all of you, 24/7, accessible. Only you have to use your mobile data from WhatsApp to others to this digital forum if you get time. But make time for that. That's my humble request. Shodh Ganga, a reservoir of Indian thesis. But very often we use this Shodh Ganga to access information. But I want to use this from other lens. That is, this Shodh Ganga will also make us visible. Our own thesis is also visible to others, while you can see others' thesis. So you have to see this from both the angles. Then e-Shodh Sindhu is also accessible, providing access to full text e-resources. So in a sense, this is a transformation which is already happening. Only thing is that we have to actively participate in it and make the best use, while you also bring your innovative ideas. Now, the second part I would like to focus is, if these transformations are happening as per the recommendations of NEP or beyond that, what are the barriers that we face? What are the constraints? Where do we have the challenge to engage proactively in digital ecosystem for higher education? One is at the top, which we often blame when we meet for discussion, what they call over a cup of tea or coffee, system mein kharabi hai, system mein sarila. That's what usually we say, no? When we are unable to overcome the situations that we are unable to do, the system has a problem. But what is the system? Did anybody unpack what is system? System is nothing but, to some extent, the regulatory body, the regulatory system, right? So that is also going through a major change, right? Yes, it is a barrier currently, because regulatory system today is input based, process based, not output and outcome based. And NEP makes this very clear using the word light but tight, right? Light but tight. It is light on those who comply, who are engaging in public disclosure and through use of technology, what are they doing? But it will be tight on those who are not disclosing information in public domain, who are suspicious. But today, every institution is looked from the same lens. Or regulator looks at every institution with suspicion. Even if it is a very good university or very not that good higher education institution, they look from the same lens, same compliance, same measure. So NEP brings in differentiated regulatory system, but right now it is a barrier for enabling digital environment and technology in HES, but it is in the interest of ensuring quality, these changes are happening. And very soon the Higher Education Commission of India will be coming through, maybe by end of this year. Once that comes in, then again the regulatory changes are going to be as per what NEP says, light but tight. Second is challenge or barrier is equity. That's definitely a challenge, as I also mentioned, but we need to find out ways. That is where your creative minds are very important, to come out with new ideas, how to ensure equity with the limited access that we have. Third is very important, leadership and governance at institutional level. If the leadership and governance system is not appreciating the use and access of technology and digital environment for the purpose of education, then it's very difficult, even if you have changes at a systemic level. At an institutional level also, there has to be very important. That is where NEP's recommendation becomes very important. And please read about it later, what I'm going to share. In the interest of time, I'm not going in depth. That is called as Institutional Development Plan, IDP. So IDP is nothing but, as I mentioned earlier, of the institution, by the institution, and for the institution's actors and stakeholders. IDP is a roadmap. It's a roadmap for short-term plan, mid-term plan, and long-term. Because when I say this to higher education experts like all of us sitting here or engaging with the domain of higher education, they think it's just a plan, it's just a vision. But the better way to put it is, unfortunately, what I'm going to say now, a better way to put it is, IDP will become now the new SSR, the new AQAR, the new benchmark of accreditation. And accreditation is going to become binary, either yes or not, no gradation. Sometimes we are happy, B plus is good, B plus plus is good, maybe we'll miss A by a few, but it is going to be more stringent. And stringency is because you'll be getting more autonomy. That is where you have to read that recommendation in a holistic way. So IDP is supposed to be consensually done at an institutional level, where all faculty and students and leadership come together, discuss where you want to be. In the short term, do you want to be a research intensive university? In the midterm, do you want to be teaching intensive university? Or in the long term, you want to be the best degree awarding autonomous college, or vice versa. Anyways, you can look at all permutation combination. So that IDP is where the leadership and governance will provide a way forward of how you want to engage, what are the means and methods you want to use for enabling digital environment as one component, and many other reforms. Then other challenges, lack of infrastructure. But during pandemic, we did not have infrastructure. We delivered. And today, the nation, after nurses and doctors, salutes these teachers, especially all of us. So why? Because we overcame those barriers, but infrastructure was not there, we managed. In what they call in Hindi, jugaad, innovation at its best. We somehow managed. No connectivity, we found a place where there's a connectivity. There was no battery charging facility, we ensured that there is a backup. All those changes we did. So infrastructure is a barrier, but it can be overcome in many ways. But it is still a barrier in many places. But more importantly, the next point I want to share to all of you friends is limited intent, limited interest, limited initiation among all of us in higher education institution towards digitization in teaching, research, and extension is one of the major barrier. So as they say, be the change you want to see in others. I think that's where we need to come together and see the same pandemic experience, the unfortunate experience, but the innovation in that crisis situation. If we all come together and say, how can we overcome this? It's much easier. And we have distinguished fact professors also speaking in the eventual session from various disciplines. I'm sure they'll also bring in their insights. But we also have to observe two important barriers, which are unintended consequence of this is misuse, abuse, and disinformation of digital world and technology is also very important. But there is a solution for it. The solution is we need to engage in teaching or sort of having those training or discussion on values, ethics, and well-being associated with this component, wherein it can enable the better use rather than misuse of technology and digital ecosystem. The last second argument I want to make for our context setting for the proceedings that for today and tomorrow are, what are the strategic improvement in HEIs we can look into? We can categorize them into three heads: teaching, research, and extension. So teaching, we all have experience. I'll not belabor that much. That is how to use technology for teaching. But how to use technology for research? So there are many layers to it. But more than anything else, technology is one means which can connect us to the world very easily, as we know. But are we using it to the maximum? As my larger question to us to think through, because there are many forums, platforms which will enable us to connect to the world very easily in a brink of a second or few minutes. But are we using it to the maximum? Again, lack that we have to think from intent, interest, and initiation amongst ourselves. Similarly, there are many tools which makes our life easy as a researcher. as simple as some of our young researchers use that most often. I've seen Zotero, Mendeley, etc. There are tools which makes our life very easy, right? Instead of, because most of the time in thesis we spend is bibliography. That's the maximum time. Still, we miss some names end of the day because that's the last thing we do, but also we do it manually. For example, so how do you bring technology into your basic research is also very, very important. And while you also deliver teaching and extension activities, and I'm very curious to know, maybe through the abstracts and proceedings, that how are you going to use extension for Masters of Social Work technology? How are you going to enable technology for extension activities? Because the strength of MSW is the field, right? But how are we going to use? And I have my own excitement to know more because that is the change. But I do have one potential point there, because going to field, we are also using technology, either a recorder, either a camera, either your videos, etc. So the immediate response to that for me is, this is an occasion for us to digitally archive your field insights, your field observation, the whole field experience itself, so that the world can see. Because right now it remains within the few groups of the department or maybe the university. But how are you going to communicate to the world that what you are going to do, or you're doing, or what you're going to do on the field, and what you have done on the field? That is very, very critical. I think that is a good starting point, and I think that is very much needed. So the way forward, to conclude, I have few thoughts to share with you, because my intention of this address was to set the larger context, raise some questions, also provoke you to think on a particular perspective that NEP is also trying to provide. One, please look at technology or a digital environment as education in a continuum. It is not in watertight compartments. If you really want to bring technology into higher education, we need to see what is going to happen in school education. How much of the interface of technology is being used, because that is where the foundation happens. And the National Curriculum Framework very carefully brings in that component, which is now just a few days ago on 20th October, the Honorable Minister of Education, Dharmendra Pradhanji, announced the foundation stage curriculum. December 31st, we are going to announce, the ministry is announcing the school curriculum, that is from preparatory to secondary stage. So how technology becomes a part of that is something that you may want to wait and watch, but still there's an occasion to see. When a student comes to higher education institution, we'll have to see what they have experienced in their school education to make the best use of the digital ecosystem. Now, digitization as an integrated process is also very critical. Teaching, research and extension has to be integrated, not to be seen as watertight compartment. So this digital archives of the social work researchers, what they do, how will that become itself as content for learning for other disciplines? How it will become a content of curriculum itself as part of a Swayam portal, as a case study, or as a reference of knowing what is there on the field, because the whole world considers India as Google for social science research, right? Best minds in the world want to come to India and do field work because they see a lot of problems which needs to be studied. But here is an occasion to reverse that and see how we can itself make it more national rather than just simply leaving it to the local. Then very important, last 2 points, sorry, if at all I'm getting late, last 2 points, system-centric versus actor-centric. Digitization or this whole technology ecosystem should not be gone with one person. Our friend and mentor Ramesh sir is here, director IQAC. So IQAC is a good example, sir, with your permission, if I say that IQAC coordinator, when they leave, there is a gap, there is absence of something. There's something missing because they go with the knowledge of how to collect data, how to organize data, how to present data, etc. Technology enablement also should not be dependent on your information technology person, ICT person or IT person. It should become system-centric rather than actor-centric. It is not like when Tendulkar gets out earlier days, we should turn off the TV and wait for some miracle to happen where Srinath and Kumble is to win match for us. It should not be like that. It should not be miracle. It should be continuous process. It's a team effort. And if it becomes person-centric or actor-centric, then the whole system might be in trouble and cannot continue. Now, one word I will leave it with you is metaverse. Now, there's a lot of discussion in the context of the 5G announcement that metaverse has been brought into the picture, but metaverse largely is bringing the real world into the virtual world and vice versa. And how do we bring the physical world into virtual world? And that is where, again, I would say your field work is another way of looking at how to integrate metaverse into this, but with certain conditions, certain issues which are related to certain digital cyber crimes and associated things, but you need to see. But we'll end with a quote that technology will and should never replace teachers and students. I've added students there because today we're talking learner centric. Technology will and should never replace teachers and students, but in the hands of able teachers and also students, it's transformational. Thank you so much for attention. Thank you.
Friends, words have power. Their meaning crystallizes perception that shapes our beliefs, drives our behavior, and ultimately create the world. Sir, your words were very clear, and with the precise examples on context of higher education, transformation which NEP is planning to bring in us, and digital learning environment, you have enlightened us with the facts and figure. Thank you very much for that. Now, I would like to invite a man who requests no introduction because he resides in the hearts of all of us, Dr. Professor and Colonel Y. Siddagoda sir, to address the gathering.
Respected Professor Manian, the inaugurator of this program and former Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu, the keynote speaker, my good friend, Dr. Chetan, Professor Shivappa, Registrar of the University, Professor Colonel Hemant Kumar in absentia, President of this function, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Chairperson of the Department, Dr. Jyoti, Dr. Chandramouli, host of the senior academicians who are present here, and the dear Google natives, digital natives, the Google generation, and the millennial. It is for the students of the college and the universities, what otherwise that we are calling now. I am happy 2 generations are here, barring 7-8 persons in this hall. Those who are very near to digitalization of higher education institutions. As already been discussed at length by Chetan, in the context of national education policy, how digitalization would facilitate for Q and Q, quality and quantity of education in achieving 50% of GER in 2040, aligning it with Millennium Development Goals 2032. Lot many things have gone into, but the reality is another thing. Chetan must have heard way back in 2013, 12-13, Government of Karnataka initiated that ICT in higher education, identifying 84 domains. 84 domains. Right from that application for admission down to that the degree certificate, including that referral services. Tracing that the vehicle movement of vice chancellors through. I was waiting, anybody tells, GPS. Had there been in all the universities, by this time, things would have been different in Karnataka in higher education situation. Unfortunately, we were to wait till the implementation of National Education Policy 2020 to say that how important the digitalization is. As we all know, 21st century is the knowledge century. Gone are the days where we used to identify 4M for economic development: men, machine, material, and what other one? Men, machine, material, money. Now it is only men. How good you are in preparing the quality men. The recent pandemic shown us, if you have brain, that you can work anywhere and this thing. When I mentioned in one of the functions, all papers wrote against me is glorifying pandemics. I was talking what kind of that the classroom situations that we would see it after 2024, I don't know. Within 3 months, the whole scenario, not only state, not only country, the whole globe got changed. We shifted from offline to online. Teachers were not aware, many of them, how to use that the computers and then even mobiles, how to talk. And within 10-15 days that they started using, how it was possible. When you are given an opportunity, you can learn many things. This ICT really helps in minimizing the time and minimizing that the expenditure and maintaining transparency. Really, it's a situation where that Chetan did not mention that, but otherwise referred the dynamic learning situation, which matters much in the light of that achieving that again that Q and Q. It is going to revolutionize India in the light of showing to the globe 2024 by giving 60% of the young population, 60% of young population of having that the history of 6,000 years, it is going to be only 28 years, 6 months. Young India is going to, that's why that we say that India is going to shine. How is that it is going to shine? It is going to shine through this kind of revolutions. Digitalization of higher education would definitely fetch a very good dividend through achieving 4C, the creativity, the teamwork, what we talk, that is the communication and critical thinking. It connects the people in no time. But we all know that Chetan mentioned all that central government schemes that 12, this thing, E-Pathshala, PG, down to that the Google Classroom and all these things. Really, it is going to create a history. If that the national education policy is implemented in letter and spirit through its 5 strong pillars, that equity, quality, anybody? Affordability, access, and access, equity, affordability, accountability, and quality. These 5 strong pillars would definitely fetch a very good dividend. More than that, this digital that learning would definitely create that the corner stones to democratize the education. That is very, very important. We were teaching that fundamental rights is the reading and writing. Now that internet usage is the fundamental right. Internet usage is the fundamental right. I am not going to talk that what are the barriers and all these things, the mismatch and all these things, that the government is there through that foreign direct funds and then CSR and also ISR, institutional social responsibility, and private public partnership, and so many avenues are there to fetch the money, fund for satellite things. It is not that we simply sit just by showing that we have that financial crunch and other this thing, but we have to move further. For social work, this thing that you know that what a kind of this thing that in your all 6 that methods that how we can use that Chetan that just mentioned, that it is open challenge. How is that you are going to evolve in that your teaching, in your that research, in your extension. So it is not new to you that how to convert that theory classroom into a virtual lab. Laldas is here through many experiments that unless that you learn, become familiar, digital, that literate, you will that nowhere in the picture. That is going to be the order. I'm not going to add much to this and talk so many rosy this thing that you are already that tired. You have to sit again till evening, and also tomorrow Guru is here, is going to throw light on all Google this thing, which may be a cloud, it may be a bandwidth, it may be anything, this thing, Google, these things, all sorts of this thing that otherwise that I wanted to throw light on various this thing, artificial intelligence, robotics, and then machine learning and all these things. How is that it is going to matter where there is no that boundaries, science, arts, commerce, management, and other this thing, everything is one. You are supposed to know everything. Central this thing, focal is the order which is going to be. You can't say that I don't know this. Already it is exist in the industrial situation, social auditing, all these things. It is not just HR functions, 3R, recruitment, retirement, and retirement. It is that social auditing, it is that general auditing, it is other that marketing, all such things are there. You have to have that the knowledge through that the connection. This digitalization creates the environment as how that you can communicate, how you can socialize, how you can do things better. So only the thing is that the convictions, how good you are. This is the 4th industrial revolution, where that the length, width, and strategic this thing, where that the digital revolution is the order. You are going to align along with the change. Change is the imminent. There is no substitute for hard work and using your time wholeheartedly to create a situation that you can do anything, everything, and bringing accolades to all your endeavors. Unless that you do that, you are going to, you are not going to evolve into a knowledge society. With this, I thank the department, faculty and friends for organizing such a relevant and timely the seminar for the purpose of creating the environment for the budding professionals to align themselves with the new changes. Thank you very much.
The most happening news across Karnataka initially and now across the India and across the world is the movie Kantara. Everybody, each one of us wait for 20 minutes, last 20 minutes, last 20 minutes. So in any setup like this, we look forward for a delivery of speech by YSS. Sir, you are like a water, you fit into any shape, any auditorium, any person and any mind. Your words were very precise, appropriate to the theme. Thank you very much for delivering such a kind of speech, sir. Now we move upon and invite Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mysore, to deliver presidential address.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Very good morning to one and all. Respected Professor Manian, former Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu, Dr. Chetan Singhai, Chief Consultant and Convener of National Curriculum Framework 2022 and Ministry of Education, and Professor Y.S. Siddegowda, my good friend, former Vice Chancellor of Tumkur University, and Dr. Jyoti, Seminar Convener of this program, Professor Shivappa, Registrar of this University, all my colleagues from various departments, Dr. Guru and all others are here from various departments, students and participants, and also the media persons. So this strategic improvement in digital learning environment under NEP 2020 and higher education institution is a relevant topic which is required today. A thing of beauty of joy forever is true, but let me say that I always feel joy for two reasons. Reason one is that I could follow the footprints of Sri Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya, the designer of modern civil engineer and also architect of the foundation of the Karnataka's today's prosperous blossoming. Reason two, whenever I could amalgamate to the satisfaction, the wake-up call from Swami Vivekananda for into my daily routine, awake, arise, and stop not till the goal is reached. Today I'm here with a joy of streaming about two dimensions of the University of Mysore. The University of Mysore is driving and propelling towards the prosperity of motherhood. Thus, the University of Mysore today is trying to sincerely for bagging the public image and socially concerned educational institutions like Nalanda and Takshashila by being inspired by Sir M.V.'s life message. That is, learning of higher education is to do the societal work or societal good. The second reason of my joy is, I'm sure today the organizers are originated by Social Work Department, University of Mysore, M. Manas Gangotri, Mysore. Definitely the impetus to the element of further augmenting the digital learning environment into higher education, though this 2 days national seminar with the AGs offered by ICSSR. So thus my joy of today from two above dimensions is making feel to overwhelmed and stand before in this August gathering and studded with star consulates and stalwarts in the education and augmentation of the philosophy of professional social work. So this foresee the modern society keeps becoming more motivated and go in tuned and intertwined with the philosophy of the professional social work. That is believing is not just the temporary help, but going beyond by promoting the capacity building and also enabling the needy peoples through the active interventions by their psychosociological systems. Now it is the time to further do advancement into the modernization of the current society through amalgamating the concepts and the input of digital environment into the higher education with intertwining professional social work and philosophy of the promoting the self-realized and also needy. So uh, I'm very happy that today's deliberations will definitely move towards the strategic improvement in digital learning. I'm immensely grateful to the foresighted leaders of the Karnataka government, really dedicated initiatives for further boosting and initiate the University of Mysore to instill the motivations and drive for the production of the leaders to the modern India. So I'm entitled to quote today the famous words of Mulvac, the social media entrepreneur, who said that technology is the best when the peoples are together. So let us, 2 days seminar, let it be a wonderful workshop. So today, because of this digital learning, actually, we took the advantage during our COVID days. Actually, our university conducted more than 450 webinars and discussions during that time, in the first COVID. And second COVID, more than 300 to 400 seminars and webinars conducted in various stages. So we could able to understand why the digital is needed. So our campus has got an excellent digital network and also the bandwidth, everything. Anywhere you can get your accessible to what we call your internet. So digital learning, why it is required? Because national education policy is the emphasis on what we call multimodal and also multi-dimensional studies, like, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary and cross-disciplinary studies. So over the years, definitely our students may be able to take different courses. So through the digital learning, so teachers may not be available. Nowadays, if you take overall strategy of Karnataka universities, only 50% of the faculties are there, remaining 50% are not recruited. So where the digital learning will be definitely helpful. The MOOCs and other things are nowadays what we are using. I'm very happy to say Mysore University has got maximum number of students registered for MOOC courses and also getting what we call the certificate through that. So this practice should come to all the universities. So now teacher is a guide. Teacher will be motivating towards what we call the subject. Your digital learning will complete your education. So digital learning, nowadays everyone is required, especially in higher education, because now a lot of what we call courses are available in the internet, for undergraduate and other things. The only thing is we have to make tailor-made, and our teachers should work on that. How to make the digital, what we call knowledge which is present, that should be percolated to our students. So for that, some designing is required. Our teachers need to motivate that. At the same time, students should also take up minimum 30 to 40% of the courses on online or digital learning. Then only our NEP will be successful. NEP will be successful. NEP has got its own what we call credential, where 65 pages, this thing really will change the India. So I must congratulate the whole team who worked for that. And here one person is stating who has created this NEP with Kasturi Rangan. And with the same auditorium, Kasturi Rangan had come and what we call delivered the lecture and motivated towards NEP. I'm very happy that Mysore University has got the opportunity. With this, I once again congratulate and wish you all the best for this seminar which is being conducted, strategic improvement in digital learning environment under NEP 2020. I hope all the sessions will be conducted in here output. So let it be a successful thing. I wish you a happy stay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an inspiring presidential address and for being a consistent support for all of us for conducting programs like this. Friends, having such an intellectual minds on stage is really a feast for our eyes as well as our ears. We believe no duty is more urgent than that of returning a thanks. I request Dr. Jyoti HP to lead the gratitude ceremony for the intellectual minds we have on the stage, madam. I request Professor S. Manian sir to come and receive the gratitude. I would also request Chetan sir to join him. Thank you, sir. I request Dr. Chetan Singhai to be seated. Big round of applause. Make the noise so much that the gratitude is conveyed to them. I request Professor and Colonel Y. Siddhagoda sir to be seated for the receiving the gratitude. Please be seated, sir. I request the audience to show their gratitude through their clap. Applaud. Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Professor Colonel G. Hemant Kumar, sir, to receive the honor. G. Hemant Kumar, sir, a man who is behind such a kind of events. I request all the audience to continuously clap him till he receive the gratitude. We have arranged a lunch and tea also so that I can hear the sound much more. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for making the presence felt. Gratitude is a way we thank our guests for their presence and the time and their words which was shared with us. Now I invite Dr. Chandramouli, Associate Professor, Department of Social Work, to deliver his vote of thanks.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. A two-day national seminar on strategic improvement in digital learning environment under NEP 2020 higher educational institutions has been organized by the Department of Social Work, University of Mysore. I'm here. I'm really privileged to extend the vote of thanks to all the dignitaries present on the dais. So first of all, on behalf of the University of Mysore and also on behalf of the Department of Social Work, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor S. Manian, former Vice Chancellor, Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu. Thank you very much, sir. I also extend a heartfelt thanks to Dr. Chetan Singhai, Chief Consultant and Convener, National Curriculum Framework 2022, Ministry of Education, Government of India, for having delivered the keynote address to all of us. Thank you very much, sir. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Colonel G. Hemant Kumar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mysore, for being, presiding this inaugural program. Thank you very much, sir. I also extend heartfelt thanks to Professor Colonel Y.S. Degowda, former Vice Chancellor, Tumkur University, Tumkur, for being the guest of honor in this situation, in this occasion. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor R. Shivappa, Registrar, University of Mysore, for being present in this program. Thank you very much, sir. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. H.P. Jyoti, Seminar Convener and Associate Chairperson of the Department of Studies and Social Work, University of Mysore, Mysore, for taking a lot of efforts to organize this seminar. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to all the stalwarts and academicians, professors who have come all the way from different parts of the country. Thank you very much, sir. I also thank all the participants who have been ready to present their papers today. Thank you very much. I also extend a heartfelt thanks to all the students, research scholars for being with us today. Thank you very much. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to non-teaching staff who have really toiled their efforts since almost a week to organize this program. Thank you one and all. I also thank the media personnel who have really made an effort to cover this program in a meaningful way. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, one and all, once again.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for thanking all the dignitaries on the dais and the audience. With that, gratitude been expressed. Now we have come to the end of this beautiful morning. There is a tea break for 10 minutes, after which we are going to have a session on digital learning in NEP by Professor DS Guru. I request all the audience to have a tea break, quick tea break of 10 minutes and come back to the hall. And the teachers and the guests, there is a tea and snacks arranged in a VC room. I request all of them to gather there. Thank you very much.
Reshma